Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and I am doing a recording on April 13th at about 5:50. A couple hours ago, notifications were sent, to people that are notified about the news going on between Israel and Iran. Iran launched some drones. My understanding is those drones are suicidal drones, kamikaze type drones, with some sort of warhead. There are two different reports, as of what I've heard. From CBS, they were stating that there were a dozen drones that were launched, and there's a article now on CNN that over 100 drones were launched from Iran towards Israel. So I don't know if it's, a dozen or so or over 100. There were also reports that there were drones and missiles. Now, there was a announcement in the UK by the Iranian embassy or ambassador that when it's translated, it seems as though that there were drones that were sent and missiles. But it might be the interpretation is that there are warheads on the drone, and that's what they were referring to with the missiles, and that the missiles and the drones are one of the same. Now, if there were missiles, by the time the news came out about the missiles, it probably would have already hit Israel by now. So it seems as though it's just a drone attack. What is interesting is that when you put it in the context of what's been going on with Ukraine, we are seeing drone warfare now in the battle space, especially with tanks. We're also seeing it, in terms of naval attack. And now we're, seeing a major launch of drone warfare between Iran and Israel. Most likely, I would think, because it's coming in slow and probably low, that the Iron Dome probably, I would think that the Iron Dome won't work well against that type of strategy, and that's probably why they used it. In addition, because the main commander that was somewhat orchestrating the Houthis and Hezbollah was killed with the attack by Israel, at the embassy or the compound, then they may not have as much control with Hezbollah and the Houthis. And so maybe Iran thought that don't use a proxy to fight against Israel. Maybe they should do it themselves. Another thing is because Israel did do a direct attack on the command structure of Iran. One could argue that they had to attack. People in Israel are told that schools will be closed. And to stay tuned for shelters. As of right now of this recording, nothing has hit. I would not be surprised that Tel Aviv gets hit, but it just depends. If Tel Aviv gets hit, most likely Israel is going to escalate this. If it is some sort of more rural kind of area in Israel that's hit, probably they're not going to. But why would you launch 100 drones? So I'm not sure if it's 100 drones or if it's 12 drones. I get two different news about this. CNN is saying 100. CBS was saying in their live feed an hour ago that there were about a dozen or so. So maybe things are changing as the fog of war becomes less fogged and we know more about the information. Israel, like I said before, this conflict is not just with the Gazans. This is going to be a more broader war with Hezbollah and Iran and Hamas. And it is time to get the job done. Now, there's probably no president in Israel's history that can execute this as long as his hands are tied by government officials within his own country, or citizens by his own country, or by the United States. If Israel loses the opportunity to knock out Iran, then we're kicking the can down the road for a much more expensive, much more bloody, and much more unconventional war. So it's time to get the job done. So let's play a little bit of the video. This is live feed from Al Jazeera, and I will comment. Before I do that, please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 3 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Please make sure you subscribe to all those channels. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. In addition, if you could, please help support my news coverage by donating on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. And on the homepage at the very bottom, you can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. You can also help support my news coverage by being a paid member on my Patreon channel. Link is in the description of this video. That way, you can help support my work, and that majority of my work is free for public consumption. Thank you for your continued support, and let's begin covering what might be World War III.
Not going to operate, and so it'll just take as long as it takes, I'm afraid.
And in your opinion, how big is that risk of danger right now as it stands?
Any danger, any risk of danger is big enough for commercial airlines. The last thing on earth that they want is to be caught up in a conflict like this, so they are always going to be incredibly conservative.
Okay. Andrew Charlton, thank you so much for speaking to us from France.
A pleasure.
Dorsa Jabari is joining us once again from Tehran. Dorsa, any more official reaction you're getting out of Iran?
Well, we've heard from the IRNA news agency affiliated with the state TV here, and they have had a source, they're quoting sources saying that the ballistic missiles have been launched towards Israel, and we've seen unconfirmed footage being shown from various people in Iraq, showing what looks like to be ballistic missiles flying over their airspace at the moment. No official confirmation yet. We expect the Revolutionary Guard to provide more details of this operation they've called True Promise. We also heard from Iranian Defense Minister, who said that any country that provides that opens its skies and soil for an attack against Iran will be met with a decisive response. We also heard from the Iranian Foreign Minister, Hossein Amir Abdullahian, on X, formerly known as Twitter. He said that the United States, they've given the United States a necessary warning ahead of this attack. Now, we know that over the past few days, officials have been adamant that they don't want a full-out war. And there's been a plethora of messages back and forth between the United States and Iran, highlighting that fact that Iran's response would be precise and measured to avoid a larger conflict in the region. And what we're going to see over the next few hours will certainly determine if that will be the case.
And Dorsa, just to sort of take a step back for a second, when would this decision would have been made, if we know, and also who would ultimately have had to sign off on it?
Well, the decision would have been made by the Supreme National Security Council. It's made up of the president and high-ranking officials in the country who would decide how they would respond. But ultimately, the commander-in-chief in Iran, that is the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, would have to have given his final approval to this plan that was brought to him by defense officials and the Revolutionary Guard. So certainly, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would have the final say on what is taking place this evening. Of course, we have to remember this is something this supreme leader who has been in power since 1989 would have certainly wanted to avoid, given that he came into power after the Iran-Iraq war, which ended after 8 years in 1988 and really decimated Iran both morally and economically. And this was something that the 84-year-old supreme leader certainly did not want to see, like full-on confrontation with Israel, but was put in a position after Israel carried out that attack in Damascus, killing high-ranking Revolutionary Guard commanders, including one of his closest friends.
You notice that, and this is Al Jazeera, so we shouldn't be surprised. They don't say anything about how those commanders are running operations for coordination with Hezbollah and the Houthis. They weren't coordinating from Iran, they were coordinating from that compound. You think they were really on a diplomatic mission over in Damascus? Bullshit.
Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi. So certainly, I think Supreme Leader, along with other high-ranking officials here, felt that they were in a position that they had no choice but to respond to Israel, not only because they were going to certainly look weak to their proxies in the region, but also to deter Israel from repeating these kinds of attacks, which the Supreme Leader himself was an act of war which they carried out on Iranian soil when they attacked the Iranian consulate in Damascus.
Okay, Dorsa, thank you so much for the time being. Well, it's just past 2200 hours GMT, so we're bringing you continuing coverage of Iran launching waves of missiles and drones at Israel. Senior U.S. officials have told American media they believe as many as 400 to 500 drones and missiles will be launched towards Israeli territory. It comes nearly 2 weeks after an attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria, which Tehran has blamed on Israel.
Now, if that's true, 400 to 500 drones in different waves, I don't think that the Iron Dome is going to be able to stop it. So there's going to be a substantial amount of damage. Israel, if that is true, and there is a substantial amount of damage, Netanyahu has no other choice than to unleash hell on Iran. But it's time to get the job done. Since World War III is starting, all right, on perhaps April 13th, you want to go into World War III with good oral hygiene. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the best toothpaste that you can buy. It's a lot better than anything that Alex Jones sells. So stop supporting Alex Jones and start supporting Dr. Paul Cottrell. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This toothpaste will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce gingivitis, neutralize pathogens, reduce inflammation, and with good oral hygiene, you're going to reduce cardiovascular disease and valvular disease. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this toothpaste. It has no fluoride in it. Fluoride is bad for you. So get the fluoride out of your diet, out of your water, and out of your toothpaste. Get my toothpaste. This is a structural nano silver. It is very high quality toothpaste. Get a few tubes of this for your household. You're gonna appreciate the high quality of this toothpaste. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, because the last thing you want to do is go into World War III with bad oral hygiene. And since we're dealing with crazy towel heads in the Middle East, it's going to get hot and heavy, especially if nuclear war starts. And with nuclear war, we're talking about millions of degrees. That's going to be pretty hot. And with that, you might sweat. So to prevent that nasty smell from sweating, go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the deodorant that I have. I have citrus and in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. This is a very high quality deodorant. Why? Because it's made from essential oils from the Himalayas. This is also dual purpose. It acts as a deodorant, but it'll also help to detoxify your body. I recommend getting this because it's probably going to get pretty hot. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the very high quality deodorant. It's for males and females. I prefer the citrus. Many other people prefer the peppermint, lavender, tea tree, but that's just my preference. All right, let's go to DW and what they have to say.
To arrive. Tehran has repeatedly threatened retaliation after this month's strike on its consulate in Syria. I'm Michael Oku. Welcome. We begin this hour with some breaking news. The Israeli military says that Iran has launched an attack on Israel. Army spokesperson Daniel Hagari says that dozens of Iranian drones are headed towards Israel. He says that Israeli defenses are ready to shoot them down and told residents to take shelter if they hear sirens.
See what I mean? Depending on which news organization you're hearing, hundreds of drones or dozens of drones. Big difference.
Iran has launched drones from its territory towards the territory of the State of Israel. We're monitoring the threat in the airspace. It is a threat that takes several hours to reach the territory of the State of Israel. The IDF and the Air Force are carrying out the plan we have prepared.
Now, just a short time before the attack was officially announced, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released this video message.
Israeli citizens, in recent years and even more so in recent weeks, Israel has been preparing for the possibility of a direct attack from Iran. Our defense systems are deployed. We're prepared for any scenario, both in defense and attack. The State of Israel is strong. The Israeli army is strong. The public.
About 1 hour ago, there was a post on X. The king of Jordan promises to shoot down any Iranian drones that violate Jordanian airspace as they head to Israel.
Strong.
Again, it bears repeating, Iran has launched an attack on Israel by drone, according to the Israeli military. VW correspondent Tanya Kramer joins us now from Jerusalem. Tanya, what do we know about this attack?
Well, as you said, it has been confirmed. There were first media reports in Iran that drones had been launched, and it has been confirmed by the Israeli military that those drones are on their way, apparently also in several waves. Now, they're slow moving, as we have heard. The scope is still unknown, but there are more than dozens, as we are hearing here from sources also here in the Israeli media, and of course also their destination, their targets rather, whether they will be destined to hit military or softer targets like civilian targets. Now, the army and the whole country, I have to say, have been on high alert already for days. And again, today it has become, the afternoon emergency, new emergency guidelines were issued as well. And now, of course, tonight this attack has been launched. It's unprecedented, of course, to see this now unfolding here tonight.
Tanya, of course, we've heard from some of the Israeli leadership, but how else is Israel responding?
Well, the country is on high alert. This is not entirely a surprise attack. I mean, the threats by Iran had been there since the attack on the consulate on April 1st, with the Iran Supreme Leader Khamenei saying that this has gone too far, a red line had been crossed, and that there will be retaliation. So the country has been put on high alert. We have the fighter jets in the air, the naval forces are on high alert, and of course the aerial defense systems. Now the question is, of course, how many of those drones Israel can intercept. They will certainly also get the help of the United States. They also have moved some of their defense systems here in the region. And of course, there's also the question, will it be just drones? Some military analysts here are saying it could be followed by missiles or ballistic missiles or other weapons.
We understand authorities are calling on the public to follow instructions of the Home Front Command. Have any instructions been given yet? And if so, what are they saying?
Well, the Home Front this late this afternoon or early evening issued a guideline asking, people, first of all, there would be no educational activities in the coming days. There was already an indication that there was, maybe something coming, but they said as well that once sirens will go off in the country, people have to take shelter. I came here through Jerusalem this evening. It is very empty at the moment. There's still some people, of course, in the street, but there's a lot of, worry now, of course, what will happen here in the coming hours. But certainly people anticipate, that they will have to take shelter when the sirens here will go off. We don't know yet, again, what's the scope of this attack, where those drones, where they will be going, the targets. There is the hope that they will go rather to military targets, but this is a very, very tense situation right now here in Israel.
Very tense, we understand, and the immediacy of this is the news right now. But I want you to indulge us just for a moment, Tanya.
I'm telling you, I don't think the Iron Dome is really good for this kind of thing, because I think they come in slow and low. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the lozenges and the drops. We're in the spring season in the United States. There's going to be a lot of antigens floating around in the air because of pollen, and allergy season is pretty rampant this year. I have drops that are in honey and lemon, 100 drops count in this bag. I also have it in blueberry, 100 count. So please go to my store and get the blueberry or honey and lemon drops. The larger lozenges are in a 21 count. You can get it in Manuka honey and also in elderberry zinc. So please go to the store. Both of these are in a 21 count. Get a few bags of this. They're high concentration structural nanosilver. And what it'll do is it'll soothe your throat just like a regular lozenge, but it's going to neutralize pathogens. And because of that higher concentration of structural nanosilver, it's going to mitigate that allergic reaction. So please go to the store and get the lozenges. They're very high quality. Everything I have in my store is very high quality. So go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the drops and the lozenges. It is very important to boost up your immune system, all right? And if you follow what I have to say and you purchase the products on my store, you're going to be boosting up your immune system. Lignans is a powder that will help to boost up your immune system. It's for males and females, and it'll also help to balance our hormonal concentrations, all right? Our endocrine system, we have different axes for the endocrine system, and that is governed by, different hormones, right? So please go to the store, boost up your immune system. Lignans is a powder. You add it into your food or you add it into water. You take it every day, and it'll help to support your immune system. Go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
And give us sort of a larger perspective here. How have we reached this point where the reality on the ground is Israel not facing increased aggression at the border from one of Iran's proxies, but rather a direct attack from Tehran?
Well, all of this Iran and Israel have been involved in what was called here or described here often as a shadow war through the proxies. But on April 1st, there has been an attack, and Israel has not taken direct responsibility for it on the consulate in Damascus, killing high Iranian commander. And ever since the Iranian regime has said this cannot go unpunished, there will be retaliation for it. And ever since there has been the anticipation that actually Iran will retaliate, but still it wasn't clear whether it will go through its proxies like the Houthis from Yemen, Hezbollah from southern Lebanon, or from some militias in Iraq. And this could also still be coming, that there could be a multi-front war. But right now we are seeing these multiple drones being on their way to Israel, and we have to wait and see, when they arrive and how Israel will intercept them and how they will deal with it.
You've touched on this a little bit already, Tanya, but give us a sense of how prepared Israel is to combat an attack from Iran.
Well, the army says they have all the plans ready, and they have been readying for this certainly for a long time, but certainly since April 1st, as I said, it's not entirely coming as a surprise. So it has its different air defense systems, among them the Iron Dome, but also others. And we also heard from the US that Israel will not stand alone. So that indicates they will also probably get help in intercepting those drones. It will become more complicated. Military analysts here are saying when there will be a multi-front war. Don't forget, we have a war in Gaza. We also have cross-border fire and high tensions in southern Lebanon. I
said back on October 7th, when this all happened, that this was going to be a multi-front war. There was going to be a southern front and a northern front, and that China most likely will take advantage of the situation and invade Taiwan. Right? And then we also have this problem over in Ukraine, and Ukraine's not going to be able to win the war. Russia will win the war. So we have this 3-area battle space worldwide, and then we also have a 3-area battle space locally in the Middle East, which is the Gaza Strip, the northern front of Israel, and then this whole back and forth between Israel and Iran. And like I said, you aren't going to be able to solve this problem using standard diplomatic means. This is biblical, and it's against the soul root of Jacob and the soul root of Esau. And thinking that you're going to be able to negotiate your way around this is not going to work, because the end goal, the end result of this, which is independent of what I think or what you think or what your neighbor thinks or what Netanyahu thinks or what Biden thinks or what the Ayatollah thinks or what Al Jazeera thinks, it doesn't matter. The Temple Mount is going to be rebuilt. Maybe in our lifetime, maybe not, but it's going to happen. And what we're seeing play out is not a failure of diplomacy. It's actually a realization of a new divine era birthing. Now, the whole problem with Taiwan and China and Russia and Ukraine, that is a different situation. And that is failed diplomacy and bad strategic management, especially on the United States side when it comes to NATO and how to deal with Russia and all that. We've completely failed. And we built up China because we wanted to import deflation with cheap goods at Walmart. That's a different situation. But what's going on in the Middle East? This thing has been going on way before NATO, way before the United States even became a country.
And northern Israel, between Hezbollah and Israel, of course, and it could still, go further than these drones, but that alone, it's an attack from Iran on Israel. This is unprecedented. We haven't seen this. So we have to wait and see in the next hour how this will unfold.
Many thanks to Tanya Kramer in Jerusalem. Tanya, we may see you later. Many thanks. Let's cross over now to our correspondent in Washington, Stefan Simons. Stefan, the U.S. President Joe Biden has cut short a weekend trip to Delaware to return to the White House. We also understand his Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, earlier spoke to his Israeli counterpart. What has the U.S. publicly said about this attack thus far?
Absolutely right. President Biden is on his way back to the White House to meet with his National Security Council staff, National Security Council, and advisors. As you write, also Defense Secretary Austin Lloyd has talked to his Israeli counterpart, but also to other partners and allies, Arab countries and Arab counterparts, secretaries of defense in Arab countries over the last few hours. So the U.S. is and was, as you may remember, yesterday warning that this could be happening very soon, that Iran could come to those strikes rather sooner than later. The president said yesterday during a press conference. He also said, don't do it, Iran. But of course, those calls for restraint have not been heeded by Iran now. So what is
now a part of that, why Iran didn't listen, is because Biden is inept. His Pentagon is inept. His whole defense strategy is inept.
Now, here in the U.S., they will analyze what's going on right now. As you said before, and as the guest said before, there is a drone strike going on. Those drones are traveling very, very slowly, and Israeli defense forces should be able to take those out. If there's more, that's a problem. That's a problem. All of this is a major problem for the United States and for the White House, because it was the declared will of the White House to de-escalate, to not let this happen, and that Iran now strikes directly. Direct strike or effort to strike Israel from Iranian soil is as unprecedented and historic it is, and therefore constitutes a big problem and challenge for the White House.
Yeah, we've all been anticipating this for days, but it's in the details where things get sticky. Washington has pledged to support
now, let's think
Israel's
about this.
defense.
Iran is not going to be running the drones along the waterway around the peninsula of Saudi Arabia, right? They're going to go right through Iraq, probably partially into Jordan. That's the reason why the Jordan king said that he would shoot them down. Or they'll go through Syria and then down south into Israel. All right, so we're talking about the way these drones are going to attack Israel is either through Jordan or through Syria.
How will it do that?
Well, in the last few days, I want to say weeks, the U.S. has moved parts, military parts, in defensive nature in the region. A high-ranking military official was in the last few days in Israel to discuss actually exactly that. What happens if? How are we prepared? How can we help? How can the United States help Israel in case Iran strikes Israel? And the problem there is if it's all drones and nothing else, and it is, as we also pointed out before, well publicized by Iran, that's a sign, and the U.S. took it that way, a sign that Iran wants Israel to know, to be prepared, that some retaliation comes. Now, how far the very tightrope they are walking, Iran, with adding more retaliation measures, that's a problem, and that is what the U.S. is prepared for with military assets. When I say this, that means defensive nature. That doesn't mean U.S. troops on the ground, no boots on the ground. The president was keen on this. So I would say intelligence, radar, early detection, and all of those kind of assets.
Let's walk back a little bit, Stefan, and get a full perspective on this. What steps has the U.S. been taking to prevent this situation escalating into a wider regional war?
Before we let him speak on that, another thing is that they could have had Iran can launch the drones, go through Turkey and then through Syria, or go around Iraq by going into Saudi Arabia and then into, potentially Jordan or just around Jordan. So, Saudi Arabia's airspace might be involved. Or it could be multiple pronged because they've
As
launched
you
so
know,
many
the
missiles.
United States has no
so many
direct
drones.
diplomatic relationships with Iran. The Swiss handle this. But of course, there is communication through back doors and back channels. And the US was always very, very clear to say and to warn Iran from anything that could really blow this up. Blowing this up means widen this conflict, make this a significantly bigger regional conflict. Now, what has the US done in terms of being prepared? It is only in one direction, and that is militarily defensive, militarily, and to the benefit of Israel. So the president said, the White House said, despite our difference with Benjamin Netanyahu, the current prime minister in Israel, and about what's going on in Gaza and the lack of aid and so on, we will be ironclad. Gladly support Israel. Our support will be ironclad. We will stand by our ally Israel no matter what. But that's the gist of it. That's the most of it. So there's a declaration. US will help Israel, whatever comes, and we don't know what comes yet. If Iran is launching more than just slow-moving drones, which can be taken out and anticipated fairly easily by Israeli or even US assets, air defense assets, then this is a really different picture. And then we have to all wait and see, and there's time to pass before we can actually say, like, okay, what is the US actually now doing? But again,
Right.
it serves us all well to remember, and I'm sorry if I take an extra second here, that this is an ongoing situation, that we do not have all the answers or a clear picture of what is going on. But again, US says whatever happens, they're staying with Israel and will do anything they possibly can to defend Israel from any attack by Iran or anybody else.
Our deep thanks, as always, to DW correspondent Stefan.
All right, so we're going to stop this transmission, and I'm going to do another transmission in another video. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Good Night formula. You need 3 cycles of REM sleep to get proper memory consolidation and detoxification of your body, especially your central nervous system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Good Night formula and take it every day if you're having problems sleeping. Thank you for listening. It's going to get scary, but stay calm and take an assessment spiritually of your life, independent of what your religion is. You can align yourself with the soul root of Esau, or you can align yourself with the soul root of Jacob. It's up to you, right? But there is a battle that's going on between the twins. And, I don't think I'm wrong on this. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day. Or nice night, depending on where you are when you're listening to me.